Hi, this is Jeff Rosebach with Pastoral's Education Alliance. I'm here today with Jim Cogan, who is one of our 12 school board candidates for the Pastoral's Joint Unified School District. We're hoping to give you all a chance to get to know him a little better and why he's running and what he stands for. So Jim, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jeff, and thank you to PREA for the great forum that you guys put on last week. I actually would love to submit your name as a moderator for the future vice president and presidential debates, because I think between you and Dana, you did a phenomenal job.
I appreciate that. I'm not quite sure I could hold my cool at current national politics. So just Jim, really quickly, tell me why you're running and a little bit more about you.
Sure. Well, I'm a parent of two students in the district. With Joel and Stephanie stepping off of the school board, we're losing two of the folks who are parents of young kids. And not that that's the most important perspective, but I think it is an important perspective to have on the school board. It ramps up the stakes a little bit when the decisions you make directly affect your children and their classmates. I have 20 years of public service experience, having worked for 4 different cities in California, and have written hundreds of staff reports and read thousands of them. So I know that I will be able to hit the ground running and not have the steep learning curve that new candidates, people who are new to public service, will. I really have 5 issues that are of top priority to me. The first being responding to COVID and making sure that our students and teachers are safe as we reopen the schools. Fiscal responsibility, making sure that we keep the budget in the black and that we're building on our reserves. Retaining and attracting great teachers, because our kids deserve the absolute best in education. Protecting the budget and enhancing our extracurriculars, electives, and career training programs like Skills USA. And then finally, improving our communication with the community, because that increases transparency on public decision making, and it restores the public's trust in the district and their elected leaders.
Great, thank you for that. So one of the things I found interesting in what you've said and what you've put out there as far as your responses is talking about additional funding for the district. And so could you explain that, explore that a little bit for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there are a couple of different options. The district is already really good at applying for grants, and both at the administrative level, and then some of our teachers, like our ag program has won a number of grant awards because of the excellence of that program. I'd like to see the district take some of the vacant land that it has, that it's not going to need for schools, and partner with an affordable housing developer to build housing that would be, some of which would be reserved for teachers, which gives us another way to attract new great teachers to our district, but also would provide an ongoing revenue stream to the district that we could use to fulfill the commitments in Measure M, that we could use to enhance other programs, and most importantly, we could use without raising taxes on any of our existing residents.
And just to follow up a little bit, the 7-Eleven Commission is working right now, and they're supposed to come back to the board with a recommendation. Part of that recommendation is the idea of potentially closing a school site. Do you have any feelings on that? Anything? It's probably something the next board is going to have to decide.
Yeah, it's tough. Anytime you talk about closing a school, there are people in the vicinity around any school that might be affected by that who wind up having very strong feelings, and it can be emotional. I think that it's important that we set an objective criteria for looking at that. We all know that school enrollment, really as a national trend, has been down over the last couple of decades. At the same time, when there are opportunities to close a school campus, that can also serve as an opportunity to partner with an organization like Almond Acres, for example, to have a charter school move into that. And you know, we all know that the Board of Education has approved Almond Acres charter to um, come into Paso. And so with them coming into Paso, we need to do what we can to help them be successful and help their students be successful, because no one is going to be served well by any kind of animosity. And the role of the school board, of course, is to ensure that every student within the district have a free and appropriate education, even students that aren't necessarily enrolled in our schools.
Great, thank you. So obviously the big topic these days is the COVID and the schools being on distance learning, some of the struggles. Uh, Last night, the school board presented a plan for reopening, phasing it based on grade level, based on the time they have. Like the high school, I don't think would be back into in-person class until 2021. Um, any thoughts on that? Do you on how to open? Obviously, everything's up in the air because we don't
Right.
know what's going to happen in 2-3 months. But do you have any thoughts on the way they're progressing with that? Things you'd like to see, things that you think should be done differently?
Well, I'm excited about it. I think we all want kids to go back to school, and we want to make sure that they and students and staff, or the students, staff, and teachers are all safe. Um, I'm glad that the district is taking everyone's safety very seriously, and you know, I think we're going to have to be on guard for any increase in infection rate in the area. We have to be willing to pause or take a step back if it looks like there's going to be an increase, or if we're seeing an increase. But we have to balance that with student success. One of the other parts of that report that the district gave yesterday was that there are 1,000 students at the high school
Right.
that are failing at least one class. And it might be that we wind up having to pivot a little bit and prioritize the students that are not being successful in distance learning, and recognize that it doesn't work for everyone. And so we'll see how this approach goes. I will say that as a parent, I'm a little nervous about the fact that the older elementary age students would be starting right after Thanksgiving and right before Christmas, because that sets up a situation where we families might not be able to get together for the holidays, because there could be a potential exposure in that time frame that would make it unsafe to connect and visit with elderly in-laws and that kind of thing. So that's something that we're considering. And so we just have to be very aware and ready to respond quickly. I think the district has done well at working to respond to COVID as quickly as possible. And I think our teachers and staff and the administrators all want our students to be successful, and they've been doing their very best. I have to tell you, I was incredibly impressed with the back to school nights that we attended virtually. The professionalism and enthusiasm of our teachers, it just makes you really proud to have kids in this district.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I would say one of the things that was important to me last night when they took that vote is it was 7-0. There was no dissent on the board. And so I think that puts a good message out there to the community that everybody's on board with at least having a roadmap. How it works out, we'll figure that out as we move along. So I thought that was great. So one of the things our district is known for, especially the high school, is some of the extracurricular activities, which are also the things that are the first to get cut when things get tough.
Right.
And so could you kind of let me know how you see how that fits into a well-rounded student, and how you might give that priority going forward?
I think it absolutely has to be one of our top priorities. It's why it's in my top five, um, and really across the board, whether it's our art elective classes, music programs, the um, athletics. I'm a youth football coach, and so I'm really excited that my older son is playing football for the high school. My younger son is participating or did participate in um, sports at Kermit King, and it's it's critical. I think it's one of those areas um, that sets us apart. It's a competitive advantage, using um, more of the uh, innovation uh, innovation industry lingo. It's a differentiator for our district, and it sets us apart from other districts. And really, for me, I am so enthusiastic about the fact that not only is my son taking history and English and science and math courses, but he's going to graduate from the high school in 4 years with his certification in welding. He's going to have college credits through Cuesta, and
Right.
all of those programs are critical for enhancing our students' experience, for enriching their lives, for teaching them those life lessons that you can't learn in the classroom. Um, but really, if I had had access to some of those programs in high school, then it might not have changed my career path. But I can tell you that I'd be a lot better at welding right now. I'd use a lot less filler in my body work on my cars, and it probably would have given me an opportunity to have better paying summer jobs while I was in college. And some of us had to work summers in college and during the school year, and if I had had my welding certification coming out of high school, man, I would have gotten paid a lot better than I did as a mover. So I'm
Right.
excited for that opportunity for my kids and for their classmates, and I want to make sure that we keep that opportunity, because I I think it's a way that our district is light years ahead of anyone else.
Right. And speaking of competition, is we're having a charter school who will be moving into the city here in the next year or so, I assume. Um, what's your feelings on that? Wasn't the decision of the school board largely because of conflicts of interest? But do you think that is a positive for the district, negative for the district? How do you see that relationship going forward?
Well, I think, like everyone, I'm concerned about what it could mean for the financial picture for the district. It definitely makes finding additional revenue streams critical. Um, but the question of whether or not Almond Acres is moving to Paso has been answered. So the only thing we can decide on now is whether or not we're going to work with them to make sure that Almond Acres and their students are successful, or not. And I think for the good of the students and the community as a whole, we need to work with them. They have that location on Niblick that they're hoping to build on. They have to go through the city development process, and then they have to get into development. And I am sure that they've figured out how to do that and how to pay for everything. But I've worked with land use and developers for 20 years, and there are two things that always come up. It's always more expensive than anyone expects it to be, and it always takes a lot longer than anyone expects it to be.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I know that our administration has had conversations with their administration, and if through the 7-Eleven committee process we identify a school that um, the district doesn't need for current enrollment, and there's an opportunity to work with Almond Acres, we should explore that, because that could be an additional revenue stream for the district, and a way to um, work with Almond Acres rather than be in an adversarial role.
Great, thank you. So I've been involved with um, education foundations here in Paso Robles for about 12 years. And the one thing that comes up every year, every election cycle, is communication
Hmm.
to the parents within the district. Uh, what's your thoughts on the current state of communication? What can the district do better to get their message out?
Well, it's funny, um, there are two things that I've heard from a lot of people in Paso, and really two things that if you're a Roblin. And the first is that there has been about the district, and the first is that there have been issues financially, and that the district is in bad financial straits. And second, that when school is in session, you don't want to have to drive down Creston or Niblick in the morning, because
Uh,
you'll get stuck around Lewis Middle School or around the high school. And um, some of that's true and some of it's not. A lot of people are surprised when I tell them that the district is actually financially in the black and has a 10% budget reserve right now. And a lot of that is due to the difficult financial decisions that the current administration has undertaken over the last year. So they deserve credit for that. And then second, around traffic, with some state mandates coming down that we're going to have to push back start times at the high school, there's an opportunity to do so in a way that might provide traffic relief, at least on Niblick. And we should engage the community in that discussion so that people people can be heard and share their concerns and their thoughts on how we can improve traffic around those two schools and around all of our schools. Um, in working with the city actually missed an opportunity in a couple of the specific plans that were approved this past year that could have generated money not only for the city, but potentially for the school district through the use of enhanced infrastructure financing districts. And, you know, the, the district needs to have um, greater input on that kind of long range land use planning. And whether that's a board member as part of those discussions, or a staff member involved in those discussions. It's not enough for someone to speak at a council meeting. We need to be part of the planning. And so, part of my goal would be to engage better with the city, and then engage better with organizations like the Chamber of Commerce or the Downtown Association or the Wine Country Alliance, and Travel Paso. These are organizations that do a lot for our community, and we need to be greater involved with with what they're doing, and make sure they're aware of what we're doing.
Yeah, thank you. And just, we talked a little bit about this before, so, but maybe share some ideas on retaining, attracting new teachers, which, it's, schools are about the students, but
Mhm.
to get the quality instruction, we need the right teachers. And so, how do we go about doing that?
Well, the first and foremost area is that teachers have to be able to afford to live here. And, we, our teachers are, among the higher paid teachers in the North County, but the salary ranges definitely are below SLO's. And, city of San Luis Obispo is just down the grade, and I don't want teachers driving down to SLO if we can keep them here. Um, so, we need to make sure that our teachers are compensated appropriately to live in the area. We know from countless studies that having teachers live in the community that they teach has a ton of secondary benefits. Teachers tend to contribute a lot to their local community, and we want to make sure that if they want to live in Paso, that they can afford to live in Paso. One of the ways that we can do that is through the affordable housing that could be reserved for new teachers as they come into the area. When you're starting out and you've got school debt, and no one goes into teaching for the money, but if we can help them afford to live here, either by the salary that they get, or through programs like an affordable teacher housing program, we have a great shot of being and continuing to be a community of choice for our top teaching talent.
Great. Just real quickly, if someone wants to contact you, would like to show some support to you, is there way for them to get a hold of you or your campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you can contact me through my website, which is votecogan.com. I'm on Facebook, of course, and Instagram. People can email me at jim@votecogan.com. And on the website, I have my cell number up there so people can call me directly.
Okay. Well, Jim, first of all, thank you for running. Um, I've said before that the school board is important to me as any public office, and so I'm very glad to see that we have so many people interested in running, and high level people, and so I really do appreciate that, and we wish you luck, and yeah, please keep in touch with PREA. And if you do make it on the school board, please know we will be bugging you on a regular basis. So again, Jim, thanks. If there's anything else you'd like to say really quickly, go ahead.
Well, I really appreciate all of the help from the wonderful folks who have offered their support, and from organizations like PREA who are just interested in getting the word out and educating the public about who's on the ballot. I know it's tough, with 12 candidates, it's tough to keep us all straight. I mean, there are even two Jims in the race, so it can be confusing. But fortunately, Roblins tend to be a little more sophisticated and a little more involved than the average constituent, and that's always helpful. And so I hope to earn folks a vote, and I want people to know that I'll be as accessible as a school board member as I am as a candidate, and look forward to serving all of our kids.
Great. And Jim, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thanks, Jeff.